Science, science, science some more. Before I get started into more of the scientific part of our lesson, I want to tell you a story about washing dishes and a little girl. So there's this little girl, she's washing dishes, so many dishes. And then she would rinse the dishes, and then she would put the dishes over here in a dish rack. Bloop. Bloop. And every now and then, her mom would come and tell her if the dishes were nice and clean or if they weren't nice and clean. And after a while, the dishes weren't very clean because the dishwater was getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier and dirtier and dirtier because there were a lot of dishes. Like a lot. Like even more than you think. Like more than that. And then even more than that. A lot of dishes. But the mom said, those dishes still need to get clean. The little girl said, how can they get clean? The water's dirty. And the mom said, so long as you take this washcloth and you wipe down on those dishes, it'll still help them be cleaner. See? And so she did. And sure enough, they came out cleaner. So she was able to rinse them and put them in the dish rack. And they were cleaner than some of the other ones. It's kind of a silly story because when the dishwater gets dirty, it's not hard to drain it and start over because anytime you're doing the dishes, you only need about a teaspoon of dish soap. And then you fill it with water, and then it gets nice and foamy. And then you can wash more dishes. It doesn't take very long to drain the dishwater. But why did washing the dishes with a wash rig help, even though the water was starting to get dirty? So here's what I've learned. When we combined that teaspoon of dish soap, it's not a very pretty teaspoon, but you understand what I mean, right? A teaspoon of dish soap. Dish soap bottles are usually shaped like this. And they have this thing on top. Bloop. If we do a teaspoon of our dish soap and then all that water, what happens, if you look really closely with a microscope, is it makes these little molecules. It has like a head and a tail. And one end really likes water. So if something likes water, it is hydro. Hydro means water. Philic. So philia is love. It's like a Greek word. So Philadelphia is a city of brotherly love. So hydrophilic, water loving. This likes to gobble up that water. Nom 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 nom. Water. Now this side does not like water. It doesn't like it so much. It's basically scared of it. We call it hydrophobic. If somebody's scared of something, like if you're arachnophobic, you're scared of spiders. Hydrophobic is this end. And in fact, they get so hydrophobic that they will stick to anything that's not water. So they will try to stick to things like food gunk and grease globs and stuff like that on your dishes. And so what had helped was that wash rig helped connect these tails to all the greasy gunky goops that were stuck. Oh, that looks like a spider now. I hope there's not a spider in my dishes. But it helped this hydrophobic end connect to all the food globs and the greasy bits and wipe them off that plate, and so it would rinse away in the water. What's interesting is I was watching different videos to learn, because I like learning by videos, is these globs, or these molecule kind of things, they work together so much it forms, it almost looks like a flower, right? Where it's got all these different heads and tails. Doesn't that look like a flower? And this, they said, is called a micelle. Not your cell, it's my cell. This is my cell. And so they work together. This is why we use soap. Because if we didn't have soap in our stuff, it wouldn't form these things with the heads and the tails that like to gobble up the water or to run from the water and stick to all our food and grease stuff. But guess what? These also like to stick to germs and dirt and help get the icky stuff off our hands. Soap helps get the stuff off our hands and gets our hands nice and clean. So there is such interesting science when it comes to washing our hands and washing our dishes even. It might seem kind of boring and a part of everyday life, but if you could look at it under a microscope, it would be super fascinating to see how all these little bits and pieces work together. And then we use our hands and we scrub-a-dub-dub and get that nice and clean. Now, for those of you that have worked in a commercial kitchen, or maybe you've been to a restaurant, so you've eaten food prepared in a commercial kitchen, you might know that they have 3 sinks. So the first sink is where they use soap, dish soap and hot water. And so we'll make this kind of look like bubbles. Actually, I'm going to get a different color. Usually, most of the kitchens I've worked in, they like using the blue dish soap. What about you? What kind of dish soap do you like in your kitchen? Now, I'm going to pause for a minute. Well, I'm going to stop talking and draw some bubbles. You can pause the video and talk about what color dish soap is your favorite and what smell is your favorite. I'll keep drawing bubbles. You can pause or just wait. All right, so I hope you had some good time to discuss your favorite kind of dish soap. One of my favorites right now is I have an almond scented one. It smells really yummy to me. I don't really like the lemon one anymore. I used it too much as a kid. I had to wash a lot of dishes. Okay, so in a commercial kitchen, the 3 sinks, they use hot water with the soapy water, dish soap, to get all the soap, the germs, food parts, and greasy stuff off the dishes. They work to get those off, and that's where they hand scrub each part. So if you have a dish, you would take that washcloth and you would touch each part of the dish, top, the bottom. If it's got an inside, you get the inside, and you still get the outside, because even if you didn't put your germs on the outside, it's been in the sink with all the other dishes, and so it's going to have some food junk from those other dishes. So you do touch every part, and then some dishes even have like a little part down here. I like to make sure to get those nice and clean too, because sometimes little icks can hide in there. We don't want icks hiding in our food, do we? We don't want them on our plates or bowls or dishes or anything. Same with your forks and spoons. You want to get every piece of that. You're going to wipe it all the way down. So then you move it to the rinsing. So this is where you're going to rinse it with just water. Usually hot water. Doesn't have to be so hot it burns you. Be careful. But usually warm water. And then we move into our sanitizer. So sanitizer, most of the kitchens I've worked in lately, it's like a pinkish colored water. And it will have a certain temperature you can use it at. You'll have to look at the bottle itself and read what it says. So does it say 72 degrees? Well, then you want the water to be 72 degrees. That's going to be about how warm it is in the room temperature. So if it feels about the same in the room as it does in here, cool, awesome. If it's supposed to be colder, maybe it's supposed to be 50 degrees, well, then you want it to be colder than the room. So you use a lot of cold water from the sink. If it's supposed to be 80 degrees, Usually, if it's something really specific, you're going to have a thermometer next to your kitchen sink, your dishwashing sink. And then it'll tell you how many gallons and how many squirts. So some of them will have a little pump like this, and it'll say 2 squirts, things like that. So you're going to look really closely on what those are. I've also worked in kitchens where they didn't have a pink thing. And this is what I do at home. I don't have that pink stuff at home. I use bleach to sanitize my dishes at home. So bleach comes in a white bottle, and it generally has a blue lid. It's pretty common. Clorox bleach is one of the most popular bleach brands, but there's other brands. And most grocery stores like Walmart or Target, things like that, they'll have their own version of bleach. So bleach doesn't need very much at all. So bleach is one that you want to be right at about 72. So 72 degrees, again, is about that same room temperature. It's going to be the same temperature as the air in the room. You can use the thermometer if you really want. I do because I just like knowing stuff. I like knowing the exact temperature because it's really interesting to me. That's an A, by the way, B-L-A-C-H. And so I get it water to 72 degrees. And then, it's the tiniest bit. You use just a capful. So you take off the lid, you pour it in there, bloop, and you pour it in there. And you stir it around. So you wash the dishes. Again, we touch every surface with that wash rag. Touch the top, touch the bottom. We wipe every surface with a wash rag. Wash rags tend to work better than sponges. I'm not sure why, but I've just noticed that the dishes are less greasy. You guys can try this in your experiment time. See if the dishes are less greasy with a sponge versus a wash rag. I really prefer wash rags. So wash rag, touch every surface, get it nice and clean with that hot soapy water. Then you rinse off the bubbles, and then you put it in sanitizer. So the pink sanitizer has to sanitize for 30 seconds. Bleach takes longer. Bleach takes 2 minutes, where it has to be fully submerged in the bleach water for 2 minutes. So sometimes what I do in my kitchen is I bring out a second little dish, like a plastic tote, and I'll wash, and put them all in this one. I'll have a whole bunch of dishes in this one, sitting for 2 minutes, and then I'll wash a whole bunch more and put them in this one. And while they're sitting in that one for 2 minutes, it's usually the time for these ones to get put away, and I'll put those ones away in the cupboard. Or I'll go put them on something to dry upside down. Sometimes, actually a lot of times lately, because I haven't been feeling good, my husband's been working really hard to wash the dishes at home. So he will put stuff in the sanitizing water for 2 minutes, and then he'll go help with another chore around the house, because there's lots to do to help take care of our houses. There's just so much to do. And so he'll go do stuff, and then he'll put those dishes away, and then wash a bunch more, rinse it, sanitize it, let it sit for 2 minutes while he goes and does more chores. So it's just really fascinating how this can help get all the food and the gunk and the greasiness off your dishes, so that they're nice and clean. And then different ways of sanitizing our stuff. If you are using a dishwasher, the dishwasher helps to do both of those for you. But there's a couple of tricks you need to know about the dishwasher. So most dishwashers have a rack, right? And the rack has these things that stick up. Boop, 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 boop. And maybe some lines go like this, right? So if you have a cup and you're like, oh, I'm going to put it in the dishwasher, you have to be careful that your cup is open, right? If it has a lid, you have to open that lid. And you have to put that cup upside down, because the part that cleans it is on this sprayer arm right here. So the sprayer arm sprays water from underneath the dishes at the ceiling. Pew, 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 pew. Okay, so it's shooting from the ground toward the ceiling. So if your dish is pointed, let's pretend this is a dish, right? See, you can see into that. If the water's coming this way, it can't get in there to clean out any of the food stuff, any of those germs, unless it's pointed at the water. We want the water pointing into the dish. So we put the dishes pointing down to the floor. So look to the floor to get nice and clean. And same with our bowls, right? A bowl has a shape that we want to point the opening toward the floor, because the water's coming from the floor toward the ceiling. Pew, pew, pew. We want it to shoot those water jets right at it. I'm gonna shoot it like it's Star Wars and gonna get nice and clean. And in the dishwasher, there's this compartment, and it usually says detergent, and it will open. Sometimes it has like a little knob or something like that. That looks like a bee. But it has different ways of opening it. Most of us have been able to mess with it enough to figure out how to open the little detergent door. We want to make sure we close that door, because if we don't, usually when the dishwasher starts, when you say push start, the very first thing it's going to do is it's going to do a spray rinse of just water. And like Star Wars, right? It's spraying that water from the floor to the ceiling on all the dishes just to get out any last minute stuff we forgot to do, because sometimes we forget to rinse our dishes, don't we? So the dishwasher is trying to help us out. Well, if our detergent isn't hiding in this door and locked up, that detergent is going to wash away before it even starts trying to do the soapy part. So make sure you lock up the detergent in the little detergent door. And then it'll do that first spray wash of just the water to get the chunks of food out that we forgot to get. And then later, that water will drain out, and then it'll do the soapy wash part where bloop, this door will open, right? And then the little detergent will plop out, and then it'll go, and it'll make that same molecule, remember, with the hydrophobic and the hydrophilic. You know, it kind of reminds me of those guys on Mario where they're like, oh man, I'm gonna get a better marker for this. So they're like this, and then they have teeth and eyes, and they're like, ruff, 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 and they're like dogs, but they're like a chain. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyone? Maybe I'm just being silly. But that's kind of what the soap things remind me of, right? It's got a head that likes to eat up the water and the tail that wants to run away from the water. And so again, they stick together. They make that cool flower. Do you guys remember what the flower is called? Micelle. It's not your cell, it's my cell. But it's not spelled like, it's like this. Micelle. Almost like Michelle. Micelle. So, hydrophilic, hydrophobic, micelle. Very fancy words that help us get our dishes clean. It's all very interesting science. And I hope we learned some good stuff today. All right, main takeaways. It doesn't take much dish soap, just like 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon of dish soap. And you want hot water. Don't burn yourselves, but get it as hot as you can stand it. My favorite thing is when it's really cold outside, I like to use hot water to wash the dishes, and it makes me feel nice and warm and toasty all the way to my bones. And make sure you touch every surface. You want inside, outside edges. You can get those little ridges and stuff. If you're washing a spoon, touch every part. You wash this side, but also wash this side, okay? Wash every part. Use your washcloth to touch every part. Get every part clean with a fork. Get every part clean. Man, that looks like a hand more than a fork. That's okay, though. You know what I mean. All right, and then when you're loading the dishwasher, remember, all of the water shoots from the floor to the ceiling, so you want those cups and bowls to be facing toward the water. Okay? And then the forks and spoons, they go in that special thing on the side. Some people like to have the spoons all up, and some people like them all pointed down. I kind of do a little bit of both. so that there's just enough space for the water to get around, right? Mostly we're just making sure the water can get in there. You don't want them to be all stacked up together in one big stack where there's no room for water. Just make sure there's lots of room for water to get in there, and spray those nice and clean for you. And put your dish detergent in the dish detergent door. Lock it up. All right, guys, I hope you learned some good stuff today, all about the science of washing dishes. Now go make some dishes clean.